Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dustin and Eric podcast show brought to you by Mimosa Networks. Hi, I'm Dustin.
I'm Eric.
And today we're on episode number 15, Backhaul UI. So we're going to discuss the Backhaul UI on the B-Series radios. We've gotten some requests to actually go through the UIs on all of our radios, the A's, the B's, and the C's, and kind of discuss what everything is and what it does and what it means. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Here on the screen, I know that you guys at home might not be able to see it very well, but if you've been in a B-Series radio, you're kind of familiar with it. So feel free to pull a radio up and follow along with me if you want to. So on the B-Series here, on the dashboard screen, you have link name, wireless status, satellite timing, link uptime, link availability. So link name is just the SSID for the radio connection. Wireless status is connected. Well, it means if you're up or down. Satellite is either good or bad. Link uptime is the last time the radio rebooted and reassociated. And then link availability is how long the link has been up. So this link has 3 nines reliability because it's only been up for 4 days. Mm-hmm. Under signal meter, we have the signal level, which on this radio is 44.9. You have the target signal level, which is only accurate if you have the correct antenna gain in there. So it takes your antenna gain, your power, and your distance, and computes a target signal level for you.
Why don't we go to aiming mode real quick? Too early?
It is too early, but give me 1 second. We have Phi TXRX, and we have Mac TXRX. Of course, 1733 is the max rate you can have on 2x80.
Looks like you're at we're at a 17.3 mile link too.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
So we have our center frequencies on this particular radio because it's a 2x radio, B11. You have your 2 frequencies, the channel width you're running, the TX power, and the distance. So like Eric talked about, we have aiming mode. So on aiming mode, this is a real-time signal level for your radio. So while you're aiming it, it updates within a second of you moving the radio. So you can use this with a second person or however many people you have aligning a link and work together to get that in the target range or better.
So and you have aim heading. I show 341 degrees. So the opposite, on the opposite end of that link, you subtract about 180 degrees, and the other guy's looking at whatever figured that would be, 160 or something?
159.
My man.
Yeah, 159. I guess I can math.
Wow, look at that. That's fast.
So over here you have performance. So the first one is your throughput graph. So this is real-time throughput going across this link. Clicking the white dot here will take you to the Phi packet error rate screen. So this gives you the current and up to a minute ago of what your error rate is. So this one is hovering around 1.5%, which is okay. Once you start getting up to 3 or more percent error rate, then you know you might have a problem.
Oh, I see. And you have your 0 or 10 seconds to 60 seconds, so you can tell how long that little gap is before
right.
It refreshes.
And so the error rate, once you go up to 3%, then you start modulating down. So right now we're MCS 9, but if we went up to 3%, it would drop it down to MCS 8 to try and stabilize the link. And it'd continue going down until it stabilized or until the link died. So it's a pretty smart feature. Device details. It has details for both the local radio and remote radio. So device name, serial numbers, IP addresses, which one's the access point, which one's the station, what your TDMA is set for, which could be auto or it could be fixed 25-75, 75-25, or 50-50. It also has your Ethernet speed. So one of these radios is running Ethernet and one of them is running fiber, both at 1 gig. Under MIMO status, which is also a very important screen on this page, is information on your radio connection. So you have TX power, you have RX power, noise, your SNRs, your frequencies, and your horizontal or vertical poles. If you click the white dot, it'll move it to the streams screen where you can see what your MCS rates are. If any have shifted to 2 streams to help reduce the error rate or get better speeds, or if you have any kind of interference issues, then you'll shift down accordingly.
So if you're on the MIMO status, we'll see and we're running 2x80. You see two horizontal, two vert poles. So maybe we've got some interference or a tree or something, and maybe on one side, and might have
Right.
the vertical polarity might be lower, or something to pay attention to.
All right, so the next screen, which is also an important screen, is the channel and power page. So this shows your spectrum analyzer. There's also a button on the dashboard page that'll bring you to this screen as well, called the spectrum analyzer tab. But you have the option to set your two center frequencies, the channel width, 2x20, 40, or 80, the transmit power for both radios, and the antenna gain for both radios. On the B11 specifically, you can set the operating band from 10 gig to 11 gig as well.
So I noticed back on the dashboard, the prime page, that the target RSSI was a little higher than the actual the current SSI level.
So I can tell you that this link is running a 4-foot dish on one end and a 3-foot dish on the other. So we have the antenna gains for a 3-foot dish in here, whereas we have a 4-foot on one end. So that kind of throws off your target a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
The next important screen is the link page. This is where you can set either access point or station. So be sure when you're setting up a link that they're not both set to access point or station, which I've seen that a lot. You want to make sure that one of them, of course, is set to access point, the other is set to station. You can set it, the split, which I like auto because you get the most throughput out of that and the lowest latency. But you can also set it to 50-50 or 75-25 if you're trying to do co-location with a GPS sync. So you want to reuse spectrum. The other important thing on this page is the SSID and the encryption key that you want to be the same on both radios so that they associate and link up. Rate adaptation, you either have PHY or PER or EVM, and aggressive or conservative. So most people will leave this at PER, conservative. So PER conservative is where it does 3% packet loss, and then it shifts you down. Changing it to aggressive will leave that until 5%. So most people want that to be conservative because they don't want packet errors. So it will reduce bandwidth to save your packet error rate. But you can be aggressive about it as well and have more packet error rate but higher throughput.
Do we want to go to the other side of the link and look at scan for ID?
If we do that, then that brings our internet connection down.
We don't want to do that on this particular IP.
Yeah,
this
is
particular
our
device.
actual backhaul link to this building. So.
Should we dial into that? No, we'll address that later.
Yeah,
okay.
So the next important page on the radio is the management page, where you set either a static IP address or DHCP plus static failover. So DHCP plus static failover means that it'll pull a DHCP address from a DHCP server. If there isn't a DHCP server issuing addresses, it will fall back to what you have in the radio. So by default, that is 192.168.1.20, but you can make that whatever you want. You can also enable HTTPS. You can change the web server port, which I don't recommend, but some network admins change that, so less likely to get other people into your radio. You can also enable or disable management VLANs, which basically means that if you have that enabled, only people on the management network can access these radios. So customers behind this link wouldn't be able to access your radio.
Cloud management.
You have cloud management, which you can turn on or off, which we definitely recommend that you turn that on. It helps us and support troubleshoot your link a lot easier. We have the graphs and everything else. The firewall, just a little thing about the firewall. If it's turned on and you ping the radio more than 20 times a second, it will block you from being able to access this radio for the next hour. It's helped prevent DOS attacks on your radio. So if you turn this off, then you can ping it as many times as you want, but you're opening it up to potential DOS attacks on your link. Hopefully you haven't made anybody mad to do something like that to you, but that's what that's for. And then we have the firmware and reset page, which is just where you can go to update your firmware for your radio. This is currently running the highest version of firmware 151, But if I was troubleshooting something or had any version of firmware, I could upgrade or downgrade as needed. You also have reset, which factory resets your device. Reset configuration, which only resets configuration and not the unlock. Reset does both. You have reset device unlock, which just resets the unlock code.
So if I do a factory reset internally here, will I need a new unlock key?
You'll have to get the unlock key again. It won't be new, but you'll have to generate the key again unless you wrote it down somewhere. Or you go in the cloud if you have your cloud connected and you have that key available to you on the cloud as well.
Copy and paste it or whatever.
And then you can just reboot the device, which I'm definitely not going to do in this because, well, then the internet would go down and everybody'd hate me. And then the most important page, if you're having issues, is the logs page. So you have two separate tabs here. You have events and you have support info. So events tells you everything. When you lost GPS, when the link goes up or down, when you've changed channels, when the radio had to reboot because of any kind of software or hardware lockup. But support info will tell us a whole lot more information. So when we need support files from you, when you guys are having trouble, we want you to go to the support info tab, preferably before you reboot, but even after you reboot, it's still better than nothing at all. And then hit download and then send that to us. That way we can actually pull up all the logs and look at what might be going on with your link.
It'd be a large encrypted detail tar extension.
Right. Yeah. So other pages to note real quick here is the location tab. It just gives you information on your GPS satellites and how many you're connected to. It also tells you the link distance and the latitude and longitude of your links if they're GPS enabled. If they're a B5 Lite, C5C, C5X, there's no GPS in point-to-point mode. So you would have to actually enter those coordinates on the AP radio. You wouldn't have this pretty GPS screen, but you would still have the location data on that. And then the general page is just where you can name the radio. Naming the device-friendly radio will then reflect that in the cloud if you pull up the cloud information. You can also change the UI login password here as well if you need to. And then even the unlock code is also listed on this page if you want to keep that for your records.
LEDs. LED adjustment, so you see high there. And I'll tell you, even high and medium, the LEDs on most of the products, pretty bright. Right. You can see those from a few blocks out.
And then the last tab that some of you guys would care about is the SNMP syslog page under notifications. So you can set up your SNMP traps here. You can set up your syslog notifications here. I know some people out there, instead of logging into the radio and pulling logs or looking at logs, they actually have that sent to their syslog server so they can look through that at their leisure. But mainly, the main two pages of this that you need to worry about, the dashboard page for troubleshooting and the channel and power page for troubleshooting, and then, of course, the logs if you want to look through those. But the dashboard page is your go-to for troubleshooting a link.
You can do a quick, let's see, hover the mouse over the satellite timing little info icon. It gives you a little SNR, number of sats.
Right. So this page has everything combined into one page, except for the spectrum, which you can get to easily by hitting Spectrum Analyzer or by going to the channel and power page. But those two pages are what we use the most to help troubleshoot, interference issues or co-location issues, things like that. We also appreciate the pictures that you would send too for your installation, so we can kind of figure out what might actually be happening with any links that are having issues.
I guess we'll see, interferences, co-location issues, some other stuff.
Right. So on the Spectrum Analyzer, you can, of course, see that there's interference down at the end of the band and in the middle of the band and at the other end of the band as well. And you can hit Combined here and see both ends of the link and see if there's any interference that's affecting you or is in the way of potentially you changing channels. So anyway, guys, that's it for this week's show. Hopefully it was informational and not so boring. Next week, we'll probably be doing the same thing over the A-series radios because although there's a lot of things that are the same, there's a lot that isn't the same as well. So, all right, guys, we'll see you on the next show.
Alrighty
then. Thanks for tuning in. please hit the subscribe or follow button to stay up to date with our latest podcast, which will be available on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud.